Did you know that almost 80% of people say they have a fear of public speaking? And that includes native English speakers. So if English isn't your first language, you are definitely not alone. But the good news is your English doesn't have to be perfect to give a great presentation. You just need the right phrases, phrases that'll help you to sound clear and confident as you're speaking. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you in today's video. I'm going to share 50 English phrases that you can use in your presentations from start to finish to sound professional, clear, confident every single time. Let's go. Now, the first thing your audience should hear is something that makes them feel welcome. So here's a couple of phrases you can use to open your presentation. First, you can just say good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. That's probably a little more formal. First, let me thank you all for being here today. It's a pleasure to see you all today. And if someone is introducing you, you want to thank them. You say, thank you, John, or thanks, John, and then your opening line. You've got your audience's attention. Now you need to keep it. So you then want to hook your audience. A hook is something that captures your audience's attention. It gets them curious and it makes them want to listen to you. There are many different ways to do this, all depending on your personal style, your personality, the company culture, the culture of the audience you're talking to. But here are just a couple of different ways you can hook your audience. One way is to start with a question. So you can just say, to begin, I'd like to pose a question, and then ask your question. Quick show of hands. How many of you have ever now, a show of hands is a phrase that we use a lot in English during presentations. It's asking people to raise their hands, to show their hands in response to a question. It's a quick visual way to get audience participation and see if they agree or disagree with what you're saying. Another hook you can use is to start with a relevant statistic, just like I did at the beginning of this video. I said, did you know that 80% of people report having a fear of public speaking? You could also say, what if I told you that? And then mention a surprising fact or statistic. And another way is to share some kind of a short personal story that's relevant. Imagine you had to, or let me take you back to a moment that changed how I. Okay, quick question for you guys. Are you part of that 80% of the general population that fears public speaking? Comment below either yes or no. Now, the very next thing you need to do is tell your audience why your presentation should matter to them. What's the value in what you're saying for them? Why should they take time out of their day to listen to you? Show them that what you have to say isn't just relevant, but it's essential. So you could say, today I'm going to show you, or today I'm going to tell you, you're about to learn. That might be a little more informal. This next one is my favorite. It's what I've always used throughout my whole career whenever I had to present. By the end of my talk or by the end of my presentation, you'll know how to. I also like to use numbers sometimes. So, for example, by the end of my presentation, you'll have 3 ways to handle difficult customer conversations smoothly. Or something that's just a little more simple and direct could be something like this morning or this afternoon. I'm going to take a look at the recent developments in. Let's now talk about the structure of your presentation because letting your audience know what they can expect just helps them to follow along. So, you want to give them a brief outline of your talk, you can say. And by the way, you guys, a lot of times we use the word talk when we're talking about a presentation. So, my talk, my presentation means the same thing. In this presentation, I'll focus on 3 main points, A, B, and C. You can list them. We'll start with topic 1, then we'll move on to topic 2, and finally, we'll wrap up with topic 3. Or here's what we'll cover today, and then list your topics. Setting clear expectations for your audience about when everyone can ask questions really helps to avoid awkward interruptions and silent Q&A questions at the end as well. So if you're okay with people asking questions throughout your presentation, you can say, this is an interactive session, so please feel free to ask questions at any time. Or if you'd rather people wait till the end, you can say, please hold your questions until the end of this presentation. We'll have time then for discussion. Now let's talk about transitions. These are phrases that help your presentation move smoothly when you're switching between topics. I'd like to start with my first point concerns. Next, I'd like to focus on, let's now turn our attention to, moving on to, I'd like to switch gears now and talk about. Switch gears is another expression that you'll hear a lot in English presentations. This means to change the subject, to change topics. It's a smooth way to transition from one section to another. Finally, I'd like to address, that brings us to my final point. Okay, let's now talk about my favorite part of a presentation, and that is keeping the audience engaged. This is something that I feel is so important. You want to make people feel like they're involved in your presentation. That makes it more impactful, more dynamic, more memorable, and it just makes the presentation more valuable for everybody there, the audience and yourself as well. So when you can, you want to sprinkle in questions throughout your talk to get people involved. Here's some questions that I've always used throughout my presentations. These are some of my favorites. Does that surprise anyone? By a show of hands, how many people have experienced this before? There we have that phrase again, show of hands. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Who here can guess what happened next? Who here agrees? All right, emphasizing key information. Now, some points matter more than others, but your audience won't know unless you tell them. So these phrases will help you to highlight what's important. You could say, I'd like to highlight. I personally like to draw people's attention by pointing out specific details on the slides themselves if I was presenting with slides. What you're seeing here on this slide is, if you look at the upper corner of this slide, think about the significance of this number here. Okay, now let's talk about wrapping up your presentation. To wrap up or wrap something up, that's a super common phrasal verb that you'll hear all the time in business in general, especially in presentations, and that means to finish something. If we're wrapping something up, we are finishing what we're doing. So when it's time to wrap things up, you want to signal to your audience that your presentation is almost over. So here's some things you can say. That brings us to the end of my presentation. That concludes my talk for today. It's probably a little more formal. And that covers everything I wanted to share today. Inviting questions. You've made your points and now it's your audience's turn. Here's how to smoothly invite questions or open the floor for discussion. In a business context, to open the floor, that means you are inviting people to speak, to ask their questions. I'd now be happy to answer any questions you might have. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer any questions. Let's open the floor now for discussion. Now, if someone asks you a difficult question during your presentation, the important thing is just to stay calm, stay composed, and it's okay if you don't have the answer. So here's some smart, polite ways to respond. That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second and just give yourself a couple seconds to think of the right way to respond. I appreciate you bringing that up. Here's what I can tell you. That's an interesting point. I'll need to check on that and I'll follow up with you later. I see why you'd ask that. Let me explain as best I can. And always end your presentation on a grateful note. Here are some things you can say to thank the audience before the end. Thank you for your attention and participation today. That's a little more formal. Many thanks for your time and interest in this topic. Also a little more formal. It's been a pleasure being here with you today. Thanks, everyone. All right, guys, I hope you found these phrases helpful. But one more thing. I want you to remember that public speaking isn't just about standing up in front of a bunch of people in a room with slides. Every time you speak up in a meeting or in a group setting, for example, that's public speaking as well. And the way you express yourself, even in those situations, really shapes how other people see your professionalism, your confidence, and your leadership. That's why next I recommend you watch this video right here, 25 powerful phrases to transform the way that you speak up in meetings. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in this video next.